All right. Goalkeepers. Adam Tamburello. Give me your 5 from 5 to 1.
From 5 to 1. Okay.
5 to 1.
Okay.
And then Connor, you can go, and then I'll go, and we'll have a conversation.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So bear in mind before you yell at me, I took into account last season as well. So it's not just who I'm excited for going into this season. If
that's what you're supposed to do, yes.
No, I know. So there are no new players on any of my lists.
Okay.
Yeah, I did the same thing as well.
So if this is their first season in the league, they're not on my list.
I have a few people. I think if I have anybody new, it is in like an honorable mention as a, hey, this person can be very good. But I need to see them play first. And there might be one or two that slid in there just because I think their pedigree in other leagues has shown that they can do well. Okay.
So we know who you're talking about when you say that, but yeah, I didn't put him.
You don't know who I'm talking about.
I have a feeling, but yeah, I didn't put any newcomer to the league on any of my lists.
That's fair. Okay.
So number 5, Sean Johnson. Number 4, Stephen Fry. Number 3, Tim Melia. Which now that I'm thinking about it, should probably be Matt Turner. 2, Pedro Galese, and number 1, Andre Blake.
Okay. Connor.
I did 5, Pedro Galese, 4, Sean Johnson, 3, Eloy Room, 2, Matt Turner, and 1, Andre Blake.
Okay. All right. I know what I feel like I should just start making notes. Like Ryan from The Office, that little notebook he does and just like underlines it. That's probably what I need to start doing, because that I've already got things I need to yell at you about. 5, Stephen Fry, 4, Matt Turner, 3, Sean Johnson, 2, Pedro Galese, and 1, Andre Blake. Connor, Pedro Galese at 5?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Did you even watch him play, or are we just saying, oh man, he was kind of good?
No, I didn't watch him play, so
I know you didn't watch him play. Put him at 5. That's obvious.
Yeah, that's because I was looking at. So I didn't watch him play. I didn't watch enough of Orlando to really make a judgment on him.
Clearly. Yeah.
So I just went off of what the stats said, because we've said it before. Numbers don't lie. And I found a site. It's called FBref, and they have a stat on there. It's it's the first time I've seen it, so I don't know exactly how reliable it is, but it's called PSXG plus minus.
Oh, cool. So let's just pull random letters and numbers out of the air, and we'll just make it a stat. You're ridiculous.
It's post shot. Listen. It's post shot expected goals minus goals allowed.
Correct. I know. I actually do know the stat. It's basically a measure of how effective you were at keeping balls out of the net that should have gone in. I believe is the correct.
And I think it's a viable stat, because guess who was dead last in this stat?
The guy who had one of the best defenses in the league in front of him. Who didn't get to see a bunch of expected goal shots.
No. Dead last in the stat was Daniel Vega.
Okay, never mind. I take all that back. That dude's awful.
Yeah, he was dead last in the stat.
I think that Daniel Vega was down there because his expected goals were like 0.5, and he let up like 4 goals a game. He had a negative whatever that stat is.
So Pedro Galese's was a minus 1.2, whereas like the other guys on my list were all like around +2. Matt Turner was a +8.
Yeah, Matt Turner.
So I was basing it heavily on that stat, and I definitely think that he's better than that looks, and that's why I still was like contemplating putting him up higher, but I put him there because I feel like that stat kind of takes, not obviously perfectly, but it kind of takes out the role of the defense. Like, you can't just say like, oh, this guy gave up a bunch of goals because his defense in front of him was terrible, or this guy didn't concede goals because his defense in front of him was really good.
Okay, that is fair. I think that's a pretty good number to look at. What I need to tell you is the fact that he made over 2 saves a game and had a 1.04 goals against average. There are only 2 players in the league who did better than that, and that was Matt Turner. And I think I'd put Matt Turner higher. I think I have him a little bit too low. I'd probably move him into 3 and Sean Johnson down. But the only person who did better than that was Andre Blake at 0.92 with 2.5 saves a game. I don't really. If you watched him play, you know that he came up bigger for his team than that stat allows, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's like a kind of a clutch guy that can make the big saves in the big moments. But I mean, if you are saying that stats reliable, then it seems like he could be mistake prone.
Sure. And I don't think that takes away from. So I get what you're saying. So I'm trying to run back in my head if I've seen him make those types of mistakes, or if it's one of those things where he is being, I'll say, left out to dry, right? And by that, I don't mean like, because I'm trying to think of the times where he actually made like Sean Johnson-esque mistakes.
I know.
Right?
I don't remember this either. But then again, I don't watch Orlando week in, week out, so I don't really know
But I
for
feel like
sure.
if he had some like howlers like that, you would have seen it on Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah,
or
I'm sure.
So that's why I'd like to dig into that stat a little more, because I think it's a viable stat. I'm not disagreeing with you. But to put him at 5 because of a stat that nobody's ever really majorly used, I think is a little rough.
Well, so I
Because
also
to be fair, I don't like the expected goal stat. I think it's a silly stat that doesn't make any sense. They just
I think it could be a bit subjective, maybe.
Absolutely.
I don't know the stat exactly, but even just looking at more common known stats, like the one I'm looking at, I mean, the numbers are going to be a little different depending on what site you look at, but the one I'm looking at has him as a 1.05 goals against per game,
Sure,
and a 73% save percentage. And the rest of my, let me look at the list I put together again. But so the rest of the guys that I put on the list all had a higher save percentage and were relatively close around goals allowed per 90. So that's why I put Gillespie 5 as opposed to higher up on the list.
So goals against average in a season that you have 27 games ish, including playoffs, is probably a little bit misleading. You don't have, you can have one bad game and it'll throw your entire stat off, right? Or
that's fair.
Play normal, right? The other one I'll say is save percentage doesn't take into account difficulty of save.
Right. That's why I was looking more at that other statistic, because I know he can just get hung out to dry, and then that just ruins his save percentage.
Sure, but is expected goals minus goals allowed, is that, again, I don't like the expected goals, because I feel like it's almost, there's definitely a formula for expected goals, but how you calculate that,
I think people calculate it differently. So it definitely, there is some subjectivity to it, but it was, I really wanted to try to focus solely on the goalkeeper and kind of take out the role of the defense.
For sure,
and
so did I.
Because then I feel like someone like Matt Turner looks worse than he actually was, because it seems like he was like insanely good last year. But because he had maybe a shakier defense than a lot of these other guys, he's allowing more goals per game and like has a lower save percentage.
Sure. The way that they do it is basically the number of shots times 0.1, because 10% chance of scoring from any of that. Yeah, again, it's all right. So then you've got your root mean square error that it goes into a lot of really deep statistical analysis that I would love to dive into on my own, but not here, because as much as I want to be a nerd podcast, we can't. What I'm saying is Pedro Gillespie is not number 5. He's not. I don't think Stephen Fry goes above him, because granted, his history.
I didn't put Stephen Fry above him.
Yeah, you did. You put him at 5. You put Pedro Gillespie at 5.
Yes.
Did you not put Stephen Fry on the list at all?
No.
You put Eli Roon in front of him, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, don't like that one either.
Room's going to have an insane defense in front of him. He's going to
exactly, and that's why I'm not. That you say you want to take away the.
I know, but he also had really good save percentage. He had an 80% save percentage last year too, and that other stat that I was looking at, he had like a plus 1.7.
You got to send me the link to that stat where you found that. I'd love to look into it on my own. I will argue that Pedro Gillespie is not number 5.
That's fair. But based on the numbers,
quiet. I think he's better than at least Sean Johnson. I've
Okay,
seen Sean Johnson play.
That's fair. That's fair. But Sean Johnson, it looks like he had a pretty good year last year. But
Because he made 900 saves because his back line was awful.
let me send you the link to this thing. But you could see
Please.
where I'm coming from based off the numbers, though. Like
Correct,
based
correct.
on
And that's
based on
why-
the
that's
numbers
why
I'm looking at, he should be 5.
We'll get to that. We'll talk about it. Well, maybe we talk about it later away from this because I could spend the next hour and a half talking about this because I disagree with you. Adam, do you want to pitch in anything, or are we just gonna go at him?
I was happy with my my picks. You guys seemed fine with them, so I'm just staying quiet.
Smart, because I'm about to rip you apart next.
Bring it.
So my honorable mentions, by the way, I mentioned that I had this honorable mention like list for some people that I wanted to put on there, but just didn't have the proof to do it. Dane
David
St.
Jensen.
Clair,
Oh.
David Jensen for the hat.
Automatic top 5.
Yep, absolutely.
Top 5 hats in the league.
Oh, easily. Dane St. Clair, he only played 16 games, but I think if he gets that starting spot, he's primed to have another very good year. And Tim Melia, 24 games, 9 clean sheets, 30 goals against, 56 saves. After watching what happened when his defense got taken away from him, I don't see him as a top 5, personally.
Fair.
But I'm not upset if somebody put him in there. If you put him at 2, a different story.
I put him at 3, but probably should have put him
Lower.
I
Right,
probably should have put him at. I probably should have put Sean Johnson at 6, Fry at 5, Mealy at 4, Turner, Glace, Blake.
I'd be okay with that. I should have flipped Turner and Johnson, so that'll be my final. Let's go through that. Let's go with a final updated top 5. So mine's Fry, Johnson, Turner, Gaese, and Blake. Those are my 5. What's your updated, Adam?
Fry, Melia, Turner, Glace, Blake.
Okay, Connor.
I'll go Sean Johnson, Glace, Room, Turner, Blake.
Okay, I'm okay with that. We can move on.